What's going on, guys? Tom Cardy here, and I'm a professional mountain bike rider. You are watching To The Max, and today it is going to be very exciting because we're at my freestyle compound, which is brand new, and you're joining us at a very exciting phase because we're going to be building a 6-foot kicker ramp, which is massive. It's going to hopefully, by the end of this video, send us up in the air. We're going to be able to do some flips and all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm currently stood on top of the rolling ramp, which is what I've been building recently. This is about 5 meters tall, and the purpose of this is to get your speed, which will eventually lead you into the kicker ramp, which we're going to be building today. You might think I'm stood on a little bit of a runway right now, but I've made the floor here out of timber because I want this jump to work when it rains, like it always does at home. And as you can see at the end, there's a bit of a void space there, which is for our kicker ramp. So I'm not going to keep talking, we're going to get straight into building our ramp. Right, the reason I've got the plywood laid down in a massive L is because the ramp needs to have a curve, and the way that you achieve a nice smooth curve is by drawing basically a quarter of a circle on it. So this ramp's going to be 6 foot tall, which means ideally I want a 12-foot radius. So what I've done to achieve that is attached a bit of string to my post over there, got the wood as square as I can to the frame there, and then with that I can now attach the pen and I can draw the curve on there. You might need to adjust the top depending how much you want the ramp to send you up in the air, but the basic curve and the shape of the ramp, which is so important, this is the most important phase of the whole build, should be nice and smooth. There we have it then, we've got our 2 curves drawn. So the first one is the one that you'll ride on. The second one is where we'll cut the back of it, then we have to build a timber frame. It just looks a lot more tidy and fancy, which is what we're going for in this project. So what I'm going to do now is we've got 18mm ply, so I'm going to set the depth of my skill saw to very shallow, and within a few passes we should be able to cut this gentle curve with a saw that's designed to cut straight. There we have it then, we've got one curve which is complete and it's cut absolutely perfectly. So this is the bottom section of the ramp. Over here on the floor we've got the top section, and then in the middle here you have your cross beams, and that makes up the ramp that you ride on. Before we get onto the cross beams, I've got my ply laid out here again because I've got to replicate these cuts, only this time I don't need to use the string because I can lay this down, clamp it down as a template, and then get a nice precise cut, and then we're really cooking on gas in this project. There we have it then, our side profiles are cut, and it's now time to join those together. So it's really important at this phase that this edge here marries up perfectly, because that is the side that we're going to be riding on, and the way we're going to achieve that is using this trusty piece of wood and the Optimaxx 5x50mm screws. They're perfect for this job because they've got 24 self-countersunk grooves on the headless screw, which means the head is completely hidden and you don't need a counterbore or anything like that to pre-drill it. They've also got sharp sawtooth edges, which means you don't need to pilot hole your wood either, so it saves time and it makes screwing it easier. Finally, razor sharp point on the end, so drilling into hardwood ply like this, you can really set the screw in there and screw it easily and precisely. Right, the first side of the ramp is complete and I'm absolutely chuffed with how it has turned out. It's looking awesome. Obviously, we've got to replicate that now on the other side, but you guys can see now how it's going to look and it's coming along nicely. Let's carry on. The structure of the ramp is now standing on its own, which is looking so good. And the next task is to actually cut a load of these timbers to fill the middle of the ramp in where I'm stood now. And what that does is that allows you to put your 12mm ply on, which is actually the surface that you ride up. And I love this part of the ramp build because not only is it getting close to the end and you can sort of see it coming together, but it's really satisfying when you cut all those timbers and then fire them all in quick succession, and that is what we're about to do. There we have it then, all the studs are now in place, and I've actually already laid the first sheet of 12mm ply on the face of the ramp. 12mm offers the perfect compromise between the wood being flexible and strength, allowing it to bend to the side profiles, which we cut earlier, and that is going to be screwed down using the 5x50mm Optimaxx screws. And I'm actually going to mark out exactly where they've got to go, because this is the face of the ramp that everyone's going to see, and I want it to be perfect. So there we have it, the ramp is complete, and I'm honestly so happy with how that's turned out. It's probably one of the best ramps I've ever built, and naturally the next step would be to test ride it, but the landing isn't complete and it's so windy today, and wind is one of the biggest factors when you're jumping a bike, because the bike basically acts as a big sail and it makes you crash. So we don't want to be doing any of that. What we're going to do in the next few days is come back on my freestyle bike and do a trick session and film that, so that's going to be awesome. But we need to at least see what this feels like and make sure that we don't need to make any changes. So I'm going to make my way up the rolling tower and just roll down and see what it all feels like. Right, the view from up here is pretty insane. It looks so good to have a ramp there, and that's quite steep and scary, but it's going to give me loads of speed, which is its purpose. It's so good. Although I only just rolled down it, I can tell just by doing that that feels good, but more importantly, that feels good. So that's a big tick in the box of the kicker ramp today. It's now about a week after we was last on the video, and as you can see, we've painted the ramp green, which is looking sick. We've felted it so the ply's grippy and it works in all weather conditions. And I must say, it's probably the best ramp that I've ever built. We've spent the last week or so stacking the landing, so lots of digging. That's definitely not as satisfying as building the ramp was, especially when you're using epic screws, but we've got perfect conditions today to do some riding. So I think we should drop a tune and then get on with some action. So there we have it. That was so much fun riding my new ramp, which feels so solid, using the Optimaxx Extreme Performance wood screws. And it was an absolute delight and pleasure to bring you guys along, not only on the build of the ramp, but also to have you as part of that little session there, doing some tricks and giving you guys an insight into what I do. You're watching the To The Max series. I'm Tom Cardy, and I'll see you guys soon.